Hey, welcome back, friends. So 2 years and about 10,000 miles, how has the B&W Continuum held up? Today we're going to take a look at the wear and tear on this unit. Spoiler alert, been pretty darn good. Got one major little hiccup I want to talk about. That was my fault, so let's be clear about that from the get-go. Before we get started in today's video, help us pay some bills and check out today's video sponsor. Today's video is brought to you by eTrailer.com. eTrailer.com is your one-stop trusted source for anything hitch related, truck related, RV related. You know, your RV, if it's a towable, it is a trailer. So eTrailer.com, you could almost build an RV from their website. Today, I want to show you this really cool anti-rattle device they sent me. The item is extraordinarily easy to install. Basically, you have two bolts on each side. You're going to slide it up around the lip of your coupler there, tighten those down, and then now it is not engaged. All we got to do is just turn this little thumb screw right here. Give it a good tight squeeze. Now we're rocking and rolling, baby. I love that this stays on your hitch. What a great new product from eTrailer.com. As I will link this down in the description box below. eTrailer.com, eTrailer.com, eTrailer.com. Thank you so much for sponsoring. Now let's get back into today's video. All right, I want to clarify something before we get started into all of these parts here. One, this hitch is back on my recommended list, no doubt about it. But two, the question is, why have you been using this hitch for 2 years and you haven't used any other hitch for 2 years? And that's a great question. The answer to that is because we had a significant hiccup with this hitch back in November of 2023. So I was hooked up, I had it set up on one trailer. We get prototypes from time to time, so we switch trailers a good bit. I had it all set up for one trailer, switched to a different trailer, followed manufacturer specs to set up on that trailer, and did not have a good experience at all. Now, since that time, you guys, if you followed around, B&W actually sent out engineers here to Georgia in this driveway to help rectify that, and they did. And ever since then, it's been gold. It's been great. I even went out to Humboldt, Kansas. I'll put some videos up here on some cards. I even went out to Humboldt, Kansas and watched this being built. So yeah, it's back on my recommended list, but that is the reason why we're able to do this video, why I've been using this hitch for 2 years. We did interrupt a little bit after that bad experience. I switched over to a WaySafe for a little while, and I had to test that WaySafe before and after I had this hitch. But by and large, this has been the hitch we've been using for almost 2 years. So that's how we're able to do this video. That's a little explanation there for you. Okay, let's start with a little overview of what you're going to see today. These are the parts. I'm going to show them to you all together here, and then we'll go through them one by one and see how they've held up. Your hitch head here, you can see that assembly right there. This is where your anti-sway is engaged through this column here. You've got your hydraulic assembly here. This is your mount for this hydraulic assembly. You can see that there. You've got your main pin right there that goes into that hydraulic cylinder. You've got your yoke mounts back here. That's what these are. And then you've got your load bar assembly with the composite bars. Now you may already see this. This is a fracture right here. Actually, this is what was my fault, and we're going to talk about that here in just a few minutes. Let's go ahead and start over here with the hitch head. Let's look at the wear and tear. Okay, you'll see some powder coat has been eliminated from this area. This is the brunt force of, if you've watched that testing video with B&W, these areas here turn nice and red as the hitch is doing work. And that, of course, adds force in this area. And this is common for any hitch. This is going to happen to every single hitch. Unless you have a solid stainless steel hitch, this is going to happen. I watched their powder coating process. It is very good, and this does not concern me whatsoever. That is completely normal. A little bit of surface rust, you're good to go. You've got a little bit of deeper gouging here. I don't know if you can see that well, but it's nothing of concern. Again, this is normal across the board for any hitch. You can see here, there's a couple of spots. This hole was never used. There's a couple of spots of powder coat missing here. We are nitpicking right now with this stuff. You'll see it again here in just a second, but that again is completely normal. These need to be greased quite often, about every 500 miles or so, I think is the recommended mileage for greasing intervals. And so, but this is still nice and smooth, no grinding whatsoever. This is in good shape. The ball, it's got a little bit of gouging. This is not uncommon at all. You can see when I move that out of the way, you can see some of that chrome starting to move out of the way. This is all common and is always going to happen, okay? So nothing of concern here. This, as far as I'm concerned, has held up just as well as I would expect, and except for, you know, a little bit of this powder coating stuff, which is normal. I watched their powder coating process, guys. It's really good. So it's not going to get any better than this. You're not going to find anything that's going to powder coat that's going to hold up more than this. I want to emphasize that because you're going to see it some more in a second. But yeah, hitch head looks good. And just showing you the other side of the hitch head so you don't think I'm trying to hide something from you. B&W's not paying me for this. I realized there was an e-trailer ad in this video and they sell these hitches, but they're not paying me to do this either. So they pay for the ad, they don't pay for the video, if that makes sense. But yeah, all of this is normal. None of this is of concern to me. All right, let's move on to, if there was going to be an area of concern with durability on this hitch, it might be here at the hydraulic system. But I got to tell you, I haven't had any issues at all. You can see as far as visual wear and tear, you know, this is still perfectly butter smooth. That's really good. You know, you've got a little bit of age and some maybe mildew here on that handle. That's because it's been outside for 2 years. But all in all, very good. You got a little bit of rust here in the cylinder there. Nothing of concern right there. That's where it attaches to the load bar assembly. No, you know what? I'm wrong. I think that goes to the yoke and this goes to the load bar assembly. You can go back in videos and check that out. Now, it's well known, if you've researched these, that once you set this up, you have a specific PSI you want to reach. You can see that right there in that gauge. My PSI, my recommended PSI, was 1500 on that first trailer that I had. So what you would do is you would pump it up to about 1700. It would lose about 200 PSI due to expansion in seals in here, the hose, etc. Seals in the hydraulic cylinder. It would lose about 200 PSI initially, and then it would be set. So if you needed 1500, you'd pump it up to 1700, and once you've bounced around a few times and it sets, you'd be good to go. That has always been the case. So that's a good thing. So I don't have to now pump it up to 250 PSI or 300 PSI. It's always just been 200 over, then it sets in place nicely at 1500. And that's been a good thing. That tells me that these hoses, the seals inside here, the seals inside here, they aren't fatiguing at a rapid rate. Now, after 10 years, would that be different? Maybe. I have no idea. But we've only got information on 2 years. I was one of the first to have one of these. And this is actually an older version. This now has a relief valve that they make sure to protect your frame and your load bar assembly. This one doesn't have it, but the newer units, matter of fact, they started doing that right after I got this one. The newer units have that, which I think is really cool. This has not bound, how do you say that? This hasn't been a problem binding or anything like that. Now it tightens down and you've got a wrench on it a little bit. That's a good thing. You can see you've got your lock nuts in there as well. But besides maybe a little bit of rust under here on the gauge, this has held up very, very well, in my opinion. All right, I'm gonna do all of these together because it's kind of the same thing. It's just a little bit of flaking powder coat is all I've seen from any of this. Now, you do have some lock nuts here. You can see where they dig into that powder coat. That's what they're supposed to do. So I don't have a problem with that at all. These all look great. Hardware looks great. This pin here looks great. It's not binding or anything like that. Matter of fact, I don't know if there's any powder coat at all chipping off of this. This is part of the yoke assembly. This looks really, really good. This is the mount for the hydraulic pump. You can see there's a little flake of powder coat there. Zero concern about that. You can see there where those have dug in before. Now this was a different frame on that one versus the other. You can see one had a little bigger frame, and you can see where those nuts have dug into that powder coat. Again, that's what they're supposed to do. So zero concern there. There's those more lock nuts. I'd rather them have the lock nuts. I'm not worried about that at all. These have all held up really, really good. Okay, so the load bar assembly, the composite load bar assembly, there's a little bit more to talk about here. Nothing that I'm concerned with, a few things that were my fault, a few instructions that have changed from B&W. So as we go over it initially, you can see where it sets into that hitch head. You know, if you don't dust this off really good, that's just gonna crush. Now this is smooth. These aren't gouged. I don't know if they can tell that, but this is just powdered little tiny pieces of sand at this point. And so if it rains, now this is never set on the ground, but if it rains, and you know how rain pops up sand and dirt, you need to make sure you kind of wipe this off, because this is going to be a highly compressed area right here. And you can see that it's dug into that powder coat a little bit. You can see where the business end of things here. This is a lot of force going into this, and you can see it is start to remove some powder coat there, but this is still a sharp edge. So as far as the steel's concerned, I'm not concerned. This is still looking really, really good. This is not rounding or anything like that. I think this is doing very, very well. Another area of concern, let me scoot over here. The sun's really bright today. Now this is where things can hit the tongue jack. You can start to see that there. And it will actually, when I store it, it would actually, this part would actually lay against the leg of the tongue jack. Now they do offer a little hook that you can hang this on, but then that, we'll get into that in just a second, that really reduces the amount that the tongue jack can move, and we really need that because that leads us to this. And again, let me get some good lighting here. You can see this is fractured here. Now, let me be very clear. You can also see some spots here where the tongue jack foot actually struck these bars. That's what this is. When B&W, I want this to be very clear in this video. When B&W first released this, the instructions were clear. Only remove the jack foot plate if you didn't have clearance. Well, I had clearance. I had good clearance. I had probably about maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches of clearance. And when I would watch this thing on video, everything moved together. Well, the thing is, when you go over a dip in the road, these bars torque. And so I didn't realize that until I went through a pretty significant dip turning right. I was going right, and the right side of the trailer came off the road, and there was a little dip there. Wasn't anything worrisome as a driver, but it was significant. And the jack plate foot dug in and popped this part of the composite bar. B&W for a long time has made sure they ask you to remove your jack foot plate. So they have fixed this issue. All right, guys, I need to pause the video right here because what I am saying here is actually untrue. And yeah, and there's a good reason for that. I'm gonna explain that. It's gonna take a second, but anyway, so as I'm editing this video, I wanted to go to B&W's site and actually cross-reference, make sure what I'm telling you is dead on, and I do that a lot, all right? And so when I'm doing that, I come to find out that B&W hasn't changed their instructions to say you should remove the foot plate. Now, that begs the question, why did I say they did? Well, there's a couple things here. One, the original instructions did not make any mention of the foot plate. They did change their instructions, all right? So that's where I got the instruction change. I knew there was an instruction change. And they did change their instructions to what you see right here on the screen. But still, you can see in the video, I have clearance, all right? So in my opinion, they should change the instructions to say you should remove your foot plate. Now, still though, why did I say that? Well, when Taylor and Tyler were here in April of 2024, Tyler actually removed the foot plate before we went on a test tow. I asked him why he did that. They said, well, we suggest that you remove the foot plate. So that has to be where that came from. So there was an instruction change. B&W does suggest that you remove that foot plate, but it is not in their instructions yet, and in my opinion, it should be. So hopefully you'll see that change coming very soon. All to say, all of this doesn't really matter. All of this to say that you should remove your foot plate if you own or are thinking about buying this hitch, okay? This is also a very good example of why you should always cross-reference me. I'm just a hillbilly in Georgia, and sometimes I may misspeak, and this is one of those situations. But if I catch it, I'm going to let you know, and that's what we're doing right here. Now, let's get back into the video, and if you hear me say something about a foot plate, reference back to this little blurb. If you have one now and you aren't doing it, you should probably be removing your jack foot plate. The new ones instruct you to remove it. So I want to really get that across. But that was my fault for not removing the jack foot plate and not updating myself on the instructions from B&W. So by the time I had done this, they had updated their instructions, but I had read the old instructions and I was just living off of those. So I consider this my fault. They've probably had this happen before. That's why they fixed their instructions. And I'm also emphasizing it to current and future owners. Remove your jack foot plate, all right? So that's why that happens. Now, I love these composite bars. They offer a great ride, a great ride. I hope to see them do something with fifth wheel hitches with this. I would love to see something like that. I hope they continue to improve this. They've added a few things here. They've added some extra reinforcement here on the ones that come immediately after this one. Remember, this one's 2 years old. So this is the first one they dropped. They've made a couple of small but important improvements since then. But overall, very happy with this. I have ran this hitch for 8 months with this fracture, and it still performs very, very well. So even as it sits, it's a great hitch. But I just want to make sure that you guys, your future owners, and even your current owners, make sure that you start removing your jack foot plate if you aren't already. All right, friends, there you go. 2 years with the B&W Continuum. I got to say, very happy with it. Very happy with the customer service from B&W. And no, they didn't send those engineers out just because I have a YouTube channel. They've done it before to other folks. And yeah, I'm very happy with B&W. Very happy with this hitch. It's certainly on the recommended list. And none of this that you've seen today should be of any concern if you're following the instructions, the current instructions, right? So yeah, guys, I hope you're doing good out there. I'll link this in the description box below. You can check it out. I'll just send you straight to the B&W site if you need more information. But yes, definitely on the recommended list. I wouldn't hesitate at all to buy a B&W Continuum. Hope you guys are safe. See ya.